Here is a *** 550 word expansion of key point 1 ***, written exactly in the Matthew Hussey style, intellectual, grounded, emotionally sharp, and motivational, flowing naturally as part of a speech. When people hear the word boundary, they often think it means putting up walls or pushing someone away. But the most powerful boundary a woman can hold, the one that makes a man fall for her in a way he never forgets, is actually the opposite. It brings clarity, connection, and emotional safety, because when a woman knows how to clearly communicate what she will and will not accept, she's not being difficult, she's being self-respecting, and self-respect is magnetic. Men don't fall in love with a woman because she bends herself into shapes trying to please them. They fall in love because she makes them feel like her presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. And the boundary that creates that feeling is the one where she calmly, confidently shows what her standards are without begging, without proving, and without over-explaining. She simply communicates her truth and lets her actions follow it. This kind of boundary doesn't create distance, it creates definition. It removes the fog that so many modern relationships suffocate under. When a woman says, "This is what I'm available for, and this is what I'm not," she removes the guesswork. She removes the space where confusion, mixed signals, and emotional immaturity thrive. And suddenly, the man standing in front of her has to decide whether he rises to meet her or steps aside. Psychologically, this hits men on a deeply instinctive level, because one of the greatest internal conflicts men experience is between desire and effort. Every man wants connection, but not every man is initially willing to rise to the effort required to maintain it. A clear boundary interrupts that conflict. It forces him to notice what he risks losing if he chooses comfort over effort. What most people miss is that a boundary isn't a punishment, it's information. It tells a man, if you want a relationship with me, this is the energy required. It holds a standard that elevates the entire interaction, and that's when a shift happens. A shift that many men don't even consciously recognize. Suddenly, he feels safer, not threatened. He feels more grounded, not controlled, because clarity, especially in romantic dynamics, gives direction. It gives purpose. It gives something to move toward. Most men are not afraid of commitment. They're afraid of committing to the wrong thing. A woman with clear boundaries becomes the right thing because she is predictable in the most beautiful way. Her behavior aligns with her values. That is emotional integrity, that is maturity, and that is what makes a man fall, not just for her beauty or her kindness, but for the way she carries herself. The irony is that when a woman holds this boundary, she doesn't have to convince a man to treat her right. Her standards filter out the ones who won't. The man who truly values her leans in deeper. He rises, he listens, he adjusts, not because she pressures him, but because her clarity makes him want to be the version of himself she brings out in him. And that's the subtle but profound reason this one boundary makes him fall in love forever. It shows him she's not afraid to lose someone who can't meet her needs. And that confidence is the very thing that makes him want to meet them. Clarity isn't cold, it's powerful. And the moment you speak your truth with calm confidence, you stop chasing love and start inspiring it. Here is your ** 550 word expansion of key point 2 **, written in the exact Matthew Hussey styles, psychological, conversational, emotionally sharp, and seamlessly connected to the larger speech. One of the biggest shifts in modern dating happens when a woman decides she's no longer going to reward inconsistent behavior. And this isn't about playing games or acting detached. This is about emotional alignment. It's about recognizing that love cannot grow in a space where effort is unpredictable, where connection is on and off like a faulty light switch. Because when a man's effort varies depending on his mood, his convenience, or his level of boredom, what he's really signaling is that he's not yet ready to be someone's partner. He's only ready to be someone's moment. And women who hold this boundary, who refuse to respond to emotional inconsistency, become unforgettable, not because they're harsh, but because they're rare. Most people, men and women, reward inconsistency out of hope. They cling to the highs, the passion, the chemistry, and they try to overlook the silence that follows it. They explain away the gaps. They forgive the disappearances. They romanticize the bare minimum because they want it to work. But a woman who refuses to play that game stands out instantly. She doesn't match his silence with anxious chasing. She doesn't interpret a sudden surge of attention as a sign of commitment. She notices the pattern for what it is, and she chooses not to participate. And that choice forces a man to confront something he has avoided his whole life: the realization that excitement cannot replace consistency. Men fall in love with the women who hold this boundary because it teaches them something about themselves. It reveals their patterns. It exposes where they fall short. And in a world where most people make excuses for them, she becomes the one woman who doesn't. She becomes the mirror he can't look away from. The psychological impact of this is profound. When a woman refuses to reward inconsistency, she eliminates the comfort of emotional laziness. She disrupts the pattern he's used to, a pattern where he gives little, receives much, and gets to feel desired without actually investing anything. She changes the dynamic simply by holding her standard calmly and without drama. And this is where the magic happens. The inconsistent man either rises or he disappears. Both outcomes are wins for her. If he disappears, she saved herself time. If he rises, she elevated the entire relationship. Men are not inspired by women who accept everything. They are inspired by women who require effort. Effort activates something deep in a man's psychology. It awakens a sense of purpose, direction, and pride. And when he meets a woman who doesn't clap for inconsistent attention, he instinctively understands that she's not the type to be half loved. She's the type to be chosen fully or not at all. That clarity pulls the right men closer and pushes the wrong ones out of the frame. It filters, it refines, it protects. The woman who holds this boundary becomes memorable because she is the one he couldn't coast with. She's the one he had to show up for. She's the one who taught him, without lecturing, that inconsistency kills connection and consistency builds desire. Asterisk asterisk, when you stop rewarding inconsistency, you don't lose opportunities, you lose illusions. And what remains is real, aligned, and worthy of your heart. Asterisk asterisk, here is your asterisk asterisk 550 word expansion of key point 3 asterisk asterisk, written to flow naturally from the earlier points, intellectual, psychologically sharp, and emotionally grounded in Matthew Hussey's exact style. There comes a moment in every relationship dynamic where a woman realizes she's carrying the emotional weight for both people. She's the one initiating conversations. She's the one planning the next moment together. She's the one trying to keep the connection alive while he simply reacts to whatever she does. And it's subtle at first. She doesn't even notice she's doing it because she thinks she's simply being caring, thoughtful, or proactive. But over time, she starts to feel the imbalance. She starts to feel the silence she's trying to fill. She starts to feel the strain of trying to hold up something that should be shared by two, and this is where everything shifts, when she understands that connection dies not from the absence of effort, but from the absence of equal effort. A man who genuinely wants a woman doesn't sit back and let her do the emotional heavy lifting. Attraction may be spontaneous, but intention is deliberate. It requires awareness. It requires showing up in the small moments, not just the big ones. When a man is truly invested, he doesn't wait for her to create the opportunity. He creates it himself. He doesn't wait for her to ask for clarity. He offers it freely. He doesn't let her wonder where she stands because consistency is his language. But a man who doesn't step forward leaves a woman in the exhausting position of trying to complete the circuit for both of them, and this emotional labor has a cost. It drains her confidence. It makes her question whether she's enough. It makes her overanalyze every interaction, not because she's insecure, but because she's trying to compensate for someone else's emotional absence. And here's the psychological truth most people don't talk about. When one person does too much, the other often does even less. It's human nature. Overfunctioning invites underfunctioning. The harder one person tries, the more comfortable the other becomes in doing the bare minimum, not intentionally, but inevitably. This is why the woman who stops overfunctioning becomes unforgettable. When she steps back, the dynamic becomes exposed. Her effort can no longer mask his lack of it. The relationship begins to reflect the truth instead of the potential. She's no longer carrying the emotional weight, and that shift forces a man to decide whether he's going to step up or step out. And this is the part men remember. They remember the woman who showed them what partnership feels like, not through pressure, but through presence. They remember the woman who gave emotionally but never begged. They remember the woman whose strength wasn't in her persistence, but in her ability to stop pushing when she realized she was pushing alone. The philosophical core of this is simple. We teach others how to value us by the balance we accept. When she stops accepting imbalance, she stops teaching him that it's okay to meet her halfway only sometimes. A woman doesn't become unforgettable by trying harder. She becomes unforgettable by choosing not to carry what isn't hers. Asterisk, asterisk, and the moment she releases what was never her responsibility, she frees herself and exposes the truth. And nothing motivates change more powerfully than truth that can no longer be ignored. Asterisk, asterisk, here is your asterisk, asterisk 550 word expansion for key point 4 asterisk, asterisk, written in a natural lecture style Matthew Hussey tone, intellectual, emotional, and psychologically grounded. There's a moment in every woman's journey where she realizes that love cannot be sustained by hope alone. Hope might inspire you to stay, to try, to give someone the benefit of the doubt again and again. But real, lasting love requires reciprocity. It requires a shared investment, and the woman who learns this, truly learns it, begins to understand the power of stepping back, not to punish someone, but to reveal the truth. Because here's the deeper psychological reality. People value what they contribute to. When a man never has to stretch for the relationship, when he never has to be a little uncomfortable, when he never has to risk vulnerability, he never develops a real sense of ownership in the connection. And without ownership, there's no depth. Without depth, there's no lasting attachment. He might enjoy the comfort she provides, but comfort alone doesn't build commitment. Commitment is built when both people put skin in the game. And this is where her boundary becomes everything. The boundary isn't a wall, and it isn't a threat. It's simply the line where she stops giving more than she receives. It's where she stops nurturing a dynamic that drains her. It's where she stops trying to read his mixed signals and starts respecting her own clarity. This kind of boundary doesn't require anger. In fact, it's most powerful when it's calm, neutral, and unwavering. Men feel this kind of boundary differently. It hits them not because she turns cold, but because she becomes grounded. She stops fighting for the connection, and the silence of that shift is louder than any argument she could have made. It creates contrast between what she was offering and what he was giving, and contrast creates awareness. Most men don't wake up in the moment they're being loved. They wake up in the moment they feel the absence of the love they took for granted. That's when clarity crashes in. When she stops reaching out, he starts thinking. When she stops initiating, he starts noticing. When she stops filling the gaps, he starts confronting the emptiness he left. And suddenly, the relationship he assumed would always be there becomes something fragile, something he could lose, something he realizes he should have protected. The philosophical truth behind all of this is simple. Boundaries don't push people away. They reveal who is willing to step closer. The man who cares will lean in. He'll rise to meet her. He'll choose discomfort if it means keeping the connection alive. The man who doesn't was never going to offer more, no matter how hard she tried. And that's the beauty of the woman who stops trying. She doesn't lose anything. She uncovers everything. She uncovers his intentions. She uncovers her own strength. She uncovers the peace that comes from letting effort flow both ways or not at all. In the end, the boundary isn't about him. It's about her deciding she deserves a love she doesn't have to chase. Asterisk, asterisk, and when she finally stands in that truth, she stops fearing the loss and becomes the one he'll regret losing most. Asterisk, asterisk, here is your asterisk, asterisk 550 word expansion for key point 5 asterisk, asterisk, written in a Matthew Hussey style voice, intellectual, emotionally aware, conversational, and deeply psychological. There comes a point in every dynamic where a woman realizes that emotional sacrifice is not the same as emotional connection. A lot of women confuse the two because they've been conditioned to believe that giving more, being more understanding, more patient, more forgiving, will eventually inspire reciprocity, but relationships don't work like that. People aren't transformed by the comfort you provide. They're transformed by the responsibility they feel. And this is where the shift inside her begins, not as an act of rebellion, but as an act of alignment. She finally sees that constantly carrying the emotional weight of the relationship doesn't bring her closer to him. It brings her further away from herself. She starts noticing the exhaustion in her own voice, the heaviness in her own heart, and she realizes something profound. Love that drains you is not love that sustains you. And the moment she recognizes that, she begins to withdraw, not with bitterness, but with clarity. This internal shift is subtle, but its impact is enormous. Men often underestimate how quiet a woman's exit can be. She doesn't always leave in an explosion. Many times, she leaves in the slow, thoughtful, steady way a person steps out of a burning house once they realize the flames are not going out. She stops explaining her needs repeatedly. She stops trying to prove her worth. She stops negotiating for the bare minimum. She simply decides that her emotional energy is too valuable to be poured into a place where nothing grows. And psychologically, this shift exposes something in the man that he didn't have to face before: the absence of her emotional labor. For so long, he depended on her initiative, her ability to soothe conflict, her willingness to forgive first, her habit of making plans, checking in, holding the relationship together. But when she steps back, the silence becomes a mirror. He hears his own lack of effort echoing back at him. He sees the places where he never showed up reflected in the absence of her presence. This is often when regret begins, not because she punished him, but because she stopped buffering the consequences of his passivity. She allowed him to feel the natural outcome of his own behavior, and in that space he realizes something men understand only when it's almost too late. Consistency isn't a burden, it's a privilege. Showing up isn't a chore, it's how you honor someone who chose you. Her withdrawal also forces him to confront the gap between intention and action. Many men intend to be better someday. They intend to step up, to commit, to invest. Just not today, not yet, not until they feel threatened. But when she stops trying, when she no longer compensates for his inaction, he sees that someday has already cost him something real, something irreplaceable. And this is the paradox. The moment she stops fighting for the connection is often the moment he starts fighting for her. Because now he sees her differently, not as someone endlessly available, but as someone he could actually lose. And the possibility of losing her awakens a truth he had ignored. Effort is the price of love, and regret is the price of neglect. In the end, her silence teaches him what her words never could, that the love he assumed would always wait for him will not wait forever. Here is your 550 word expansion for key point 6 written in a Matthew Hussey tone, clear, psychologically deep, emotionally intelligent, and conversational, flowing naturally from the previous points. There's a moment after a woman stops trying when a man finally confronts the reality he's been avoiding. She was never asking for too much. She was asking the wrong person. And that realization doesn't appear in one dramatic flash. It unfolds slowly in the quiet spaces where her absence is suddenly louder than her presence ever was. For the first time, he begins to understand that what he lost wasn't just a partner. It was the version of himself he could have become if he had stepped into the relationship with intention instead of complacency. What makes this moment so powerful is that it forces him to see something men often overlook. Love isn't guaranteed just because someone cared about you once. Attraction may ignite automatically, but connection is earned. It lives in the choices you make, in the effort you put in the small moments you show up when it would be easier not to. And when he looks back, he sees the pattern clearly: how many chances she gave, how many conversations she initiated, how many emotional bandages she placed on situations he caused. Now that she's gone, those moments become evidence. Not evidence of her weakness, but of her strength. A strength he mistook for endless availability. A strength he assumed meant she would always stay. But staying is not a personality trait, it's a choice. And once she stopped choosing him, he realized he never took the time to appreciate the fact that she had been choosing him at all. This is where the deeper regret forms, because he understands that she didn't leave because she didn't care. She left because caring alone wasn't enough anymore. She needed reciprocity. She needed someone who could meet her emotional effort with emotional presence. She needed someone who wasn't terrified of responsibility. And he realizes the tragedy. She wasn't asking for something extraordinary. She was asking for the bare minimum of true partnership attention, honesty, consistency. When he finally sees this, he often looks at his own behavior with a kind of painful clarity. He asks himself questions he avoided before. Why didn't I show up when I had the chance? Why did I assume she would always be there? Why did I think effort was optional? And the hardest question of all, what part of me believed I didn't need to grow? These questions don't arrive when everything is comfortable. They arrive when comfort is gone, when her energy no longer fills the spaces he neglected, when her reassurance no longer softens the edges of his insecurity, when her loyalty no longer hides the flaws he refused to confront. Her absence forces him into a kind of emotional adulthood he had been resisting. For the first time, he understands that love is not something you hold by default. It's something you hold by showing up with integrity. And the deeper lesson for him, and for anyone listening, is this: neglect has a cost, not tomorrow, not next year, now, because the moment someone stops trying is the same moment you lose access to the love you took for granted. Asterisk, in the end, the regret isn't just losing her, it's realizing he became the reason she had to walk away. And that truth, once understood, is impossible to forget. Asterisk.